The RSI and MACD indicators, two indicators that allows you again for confirmation of a change in direction and also momentum. What's going on, everybody? My name is Dr. B. Hopefully you're doing absolutely amazing. You all have thoroughly enjoyed. I've seen the VWAP and 9EMA video for day trading. And if you're coming from that, awesome. If you're new here and you just clicked on here, that video did very, very well. So I thought I would make two more indicators for you to help you with your trading. And also these two can be used for long-term investing. All right. So without further ado, hit that like button, subscribe button, turn on those notifications, and we'll get to how you can move forward to support the channel following this video. All right. So without further ado, let's jump into it and get down to business. All right. So as always, if you've never been on my videos before, I like to have a teaching modality or a coaching modality. So I have this here. So if you'd like to screenshot, take a picture, whatever, pause it, you're more than welcome. And this is a simplification of starting what is it that we're talking about. So when we jump on the chart, you'll understand exactly what I'm talking about and what it actually is. Okay. So let's define these two things first. The RSI and MACD. The RSI is Relative Strength Index. The purpose of it is to measure momentum and also dictate where we have overbought or oversold levels. Okay, let me give you an example really quick. Have you ever seen something pre-market or at the time of this recording, we have NVIDIA earnings just going up and up? You're like, calls at open. I see a big green candle at market open, calls at open, right? And then you get slammed back down and you're like, what in the world just happened? All right, we'll talk about that on the charts. Now, those always happen. There are scenarios where we get a continuation. However, it does get exhausted and it also gets overbought. Okay. Also, have you ever seen a solid stock? I'm talking about a blue chip company, a solid stock that just keeps pulling back and pulling back and pulling back and tanking and pulling back. You're like, where is the bottom on this thing? There is also oversold levels. Okay. Oversold levels, in my opinion, are a little bit tougher because when things get drastic to the downside, you start having to question, okay, is this still a good company? What are their earnings doing? What's going on? It could keep falling, right? Typically overbought levels see a quicker reversal because people profit take, right? All right. So there's the relative strength index. If you're looking for entries, look for RSI pullbacks from extremes. Okay. So when an RSI is overbought, okay, I like to say too many cooks in the kitchen, you're late to the party, you're getting greedy. All right. And you get shorted, right? You get the short end of the stick because you're late to the party. So when the RSI is over this level, you'll see in a second when we jump on the charts, then you typically want to potentially trade the shorts back down, or you can short it back down because your risk to reward is a lot better in certain cases. For an oversold RSI, when it's really, really low, down into the 30 range, potentially even lower than that, sometimes we see into the teens, then you can see a potential reversal signal for longs or calls back up for a good risk to reward. All right. Let's look for strength. Great for spotting momentum exhaustion or pullback entries. Simple, fast, and works well with range-bound moves. Weaknesses. In strong trends, RSI can stay oversold or overbought for a long time. So if something's really, really weak, you can have an RSI just stays low over time. So you really have to understand where is an actual change in direction. And that's where we use potentially the MACD, which we'll talk about in a second, and also trend line changes. Okay. Give false signals during high volatility sometimes. Always, these are indicators. These are not definitive things. These are tools that traders and investors use to give confluence or confirmation. Right? We look at our levels and then we maybe check these couple of things just to get a little bit more confirmation. Okay. Exits. Take profits when RSIs potentially hit extremes. I'm putting potentially because, like we said before, sometimes extremes can just continue. It's like, I don't want you to come on this video and say, well, Brian said, Dr. B said, you know, when an RSI gets too high, just go ahead and take profits. It could stay high and just continue and ride the momentum. Well, if it gets too low, you know, maybe, you know, trade it back up, right? It could just keep dipping. Okay. So exits, look at the extremes, also look at the chart and the price action. Go check out those two videos, the price action and also my other 9EMA and VWAP video. All right, let's go to MACD. All right, everyone good on RSI? Relative Strength Index overbought Too many cooks in the kitchen, you might want to potentially short, because it's a psychological thing when it comes to trading, right? When someone sees a big green candle and it's going to the upside, our logic says green, go. Like, why would I trade against that? Why would I bet against the house or the market, right? That's where that risk to reward, I have a video on that on the channel, risk to reward ratio comes into play, right? There's not much more reward because everyone who bought the dip is now going to potentially take profits at those overbought levels, all right? So MACD, moving average convergence divergence. Some big words, right? The purpose identifies trend momentum shifts and crossovers. Entries, MACD line crosses above the signal line is a potential long. You'll see in a second. Okay. Again, take pictures, gain notes, screenshot, whatever. Entries is when you have a cross of that MACD on a specific time frame. And we'll talk about those time frames. Strength, excellent for confirming trend direction and momentum. Filters out the noise, better than RSI sometimes. Weaknesses, lagging indicator, right? Sometimes it can lag and the move already happened and the MACD hasn't given you that signal yet, all right? So in quick summary, RSI equals momentum / exhaustion or pullbacks. MACD equals the momentum direction and trend confirmation, all right? We're good on definitions, all right? Class, there we go. So let's jump into the charts and I'll do my normal Webull setup here, right? And for those of you that are coming on from, maybe my Robinhood Legend videos, yes, I still do trade on Robinhood. I personally just like the Webull chart setup. Like I've been doing it for years. I personally like it. If you are a trading view person, same thing. I'll talk about it first, about how to set up these indicators. Okay. So let's start off with Robinhood, because I probably have a lot of Robinhood individuals on here. So if you watch my Robinhood setup video, I'm on SPY, okay? Okay, I'm on SPY and I've got it on a 4-hour time frame, all right? You want to come up to the right-hand side of the screen here and you want to click this F and you want to add an indicator, okay? And you want to type in RSI, okay? And hit the plus sign. And you'll see an indicator turn on at the bottom of your screen and I can drag it, right? Make it bigger, smaller, whatever. If you got bad eyes or whatever. Okay. So you can drag it. Now I'm going to move myself over just a little bit. And I want you to notate here on the right-hand side, those numbers that we were talking about. Let's go back real quick. Okay. If we look at RSI, do you see here? When it gets above that 70 mark, 60 to 70, sometimes 80 plus, right? That is overbought. All right, let's go back. All right, do you see right here what happened with SPY when it got overbought, right? It got out of this box, out of this range, and look at the chart. All right, do you see that too many cooks in the kitchen? If you chase this, you can then potentially spot when a reversal might come. And you see that it got exhausted and that RSI started turning. Look exactly when we started to have a fall on SPY. All right, now look what's happening on SPY. It's a little bit oversold. You see it's down here in the 30s, right? When we had this dip down here on SPY, right about there, it was roughly at 30, okay? 28 to 30. So that was a risk to reward buy signal, okay? It was also in support, as you can see what happened right here on SPY, 655, right? So that is on the 4-hour time frame, right? Everybody got that. So the time frames might change based on the type of trade that you are taking or the investment that you're taking. The higher the time frame, oversold or overbought levels, the more confirming that might be a longer trend to reverse, right? So do you see here that this was roughly over, look at the dates at the bottom. You see the 29th? It was overbought on the 29th, and then we go over, there's the 30th, right? There's the 4th. That's about a week pullback, right? WEEK, a week pullback, because the RSI was on a higher time frame. So a 4-hour time frame, overbought, oversold levels will kind of give you a better indication of what might happen throughout that week. So since we are overbought here and we're reversing back up, look at the chart because of NVIDIA earnings. So most likely we will probably trend back up to these highs, right? And if I go to, and probably will be this, if I go to my hourly, okay, it will probably be, check me on this, a little bit more up here on the overbought levels. Let's go on the hourly and check. Getting close, right? Look what happens when it gets up here in the overbought levels. Reverses. It doesn't matter where the chart is necessarily. You can assign that. So if you're watching this video prior to tomorrow and you're looking at, man, what's going to happen with NVIDIA earnings? Are we going to continue? I want to watch this 673 area because that hourly and maybe even the 30-minute, right, are starting to get a little bit up there towards that RSI top line. Look here on the hourly, what happened? Or excuse me, 30-minute. Next day, got a little bit overbought, too close, pull back, right? Sometimes it doesn't get all the way up there, and that typically signals, doesn't always, but more of a choppy day, more of an indecision day, right? So I like to check the hourly and the 4-hour to get kind of my confirmations of where maybe it might get exhausted in this case. Since it's going up, right? Most likely we will get up here in the morning and then kind of try to go higher, then roll right back over, right? Because that RSI is getting a little bit exhausted. Everybody got me? Let me go to my Webull chart. Same thing, okay? So if I mark levels on SPY, and I'll just give you a different look just in case I have some Webull folks on here, okay? Again, how do you turn this on? You go to indicators, top left, and I'll go to the MACD in a second, okay? I want to stack these things. Indicators. And then you can see the RSI is right there. Should type in, if you don't see it, go to all indicators, type in RSI. Okay. So RSI comes on. It's right here at the bottom of my screen. All right. So same view, right? If you have TradingView or another platform, same thing. Okay. So if I come here and go to my drawing tool, I'll make it look the same because I personally think this tariff high is a resistance level until we clear it. And we're pushing right back up into it. So you see that 4-hour, it might have a little bit more to go potentially, right? But if I look at the hourly, it's getting up close to that top line, which probably will line close to that 671, maybe 673 level. So it looks something like this, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, maybe top out a little bit right there like that. Maybe even get above it just slightly. And then I see that RSI on an hourly. I wait for my confirmation, get exhausted, and then typically you'll see a little bit of that pullback like that. That is how traders can understand what maybe people that are just watching a Robinhood line chart on their phone don't know, right? Because we have indicators, and you can, now that Robinhood and Webull have charts on the phone, you can now turn these on your phone if you're on the go, but this will help you understand not to chase. You know, when, you know, people or your coach or whoever you're watching or myself, and we tell people don't chase that, right? If it's already dipping down and dipping down and dipping down and dipping down, if you're a momentum trader, that's great. But if it's already dipping down, don't chase puts because we're approaching support. And then you get whiplash back up and you're like, oh my gosh, I was just in puts. Why is it going up? Because that RSI got overextended, right? Oversold, right? And then look where the reversal came right there, right? Overbought, potential reversal. Okay. I'll make an additional video about my gap fill strategy, but I know that there's going to be a gap. Okay. I'll just mention that just to kind of give you all a tease. All right. So there is the RSI. Now you can use the RSI on different time frames, but I like to confirm them on the 4-hour and hourly just to see that maybe there might be a little bit more room. Right? If I see the 4-hour potentially has a little bit more room, I might give the stock a little bit more room to get exhausted. Okay. If the hourly is getting overextended, I know that I could potentially get ready for a reversal very soon. If I see a 15-minute, right? The 5 and the 15-minute, if y'all have watched my other videos, the 5 and the 15-minute are kind of my day trading and most people's day trading intervals. Okay. If you're day trading, intraday, looking to take profits that day, these are our time frames for those. So I'll check the hourly and the 4-hour. And if I start seeing a little bit of oversold, overbought levels on those time frames, I get really interested because I know that it potentially could reverse pretty quickly, right? So look at that 15 minutes getting up there. Look what happened today. See that 15-minute right there? Look at how it aligned with the top end of that 667 and pull back aggressively. Overbought. So anyone who kept holding the bag here on the upside got caught, come back down. So this is also a great intraday strategy. You can just keep your RSI on a 5 and a 15-minute if you're a scalper, or if you're a day trader that likes to have trades in and out within 30 minutes to an hour. You can just keep it on a 5 and 15 and then check the hourly, right? We good? Cool. I'll go to my long-term investors in just a second after we finish the MACD, but we can also use it for long-term investing buys. So if you're looking to buy shares, where do I buy this? Where do I buy this? You can look for your RSI and MACD as well, okay? Now, let's go into SPY and go back to here, and I'll turn on the MACD indicator, okay? Moving average convergence divergence, okay? And you see it stacks on top of the RSI, okay? So I like to have both of them up. Sometimes I like to shrink them because, again, they're tools. I don't want to rely too much on them. I'm more of a price action, level to level type of trader, okay? So that simply means that I drag these up sometimes when I need a little bit more confirmation. I'm like, what is the MACD? Okay, there's still strength. Okay, cool. So I want you to look on the 4 hour again. Let's start with the 4 hour, okay? The MACD indicator is this blue line right here, okay? The blue line. Do you see how when the blue line crosses the orange line, okay? Remember what I was saying here. Let's go back to here. MACD line crossing above or below the central line, okay? Read that again. MACD line crossing above or below signals which direction we have strength potentially, or a change in direction. All right. So let's go back here and I want you to look exactly when that crossed. Okay. Do you see when that crossed towards the end of the day, or it got close to it, then it crossed? Look at the volume that picked up and it shot up after hours. Obviously that was NVIDIA and whatnot, but this is how we trust the charts a lot when everyone is potentially like, man, I have an opinion about NVIDIA here. I have an opinion. I don't really care. Typically, the news a lot of times lines up with what the chart's telling us, right? So as the MACD line was crossing towards the end of the day, NVIDIA popped. We were oversold on the RSI right there, as you can see, and we were getting really close to the bottom, starting to bounce. There's a cross. There is the pop, all right? So that is your cross. That signals a change in direction, volume to the upside, right? So there is who has control in the after hours right now. Bulls, because that crossed, it's going up above that line, and the RSI is going up. Now, that is on a 4 hour time frame. Let's check the hourly. Okay. Do you see here that the MACD line, the light blue one, is staying above that line? Okay. That shows continuation strength, right? That means I would not step in front of this just yet to short it. Okay. Just because the RSI is over. Brian, you said the RSI is at high, I'm pull back, I'm supposed to short it with puts. Not yet. Okay. We wait for that signal potentially to cross back to the downside. Okay. So nothing there. There's still strength on the hourly. So that next hourly candle could open up and push further. Okay. Let's jump on the 15-minute. All right. Now, what you'll see on the 15-minute is you see that RSI is a little bit overcooked here. And you also see the RSI is starting, the MACD line is starting to kind of curl, right? Barely, right? You're like squinting maybe, but it's starting to curl and maybe meeting that line. Okay. What do you think I'm maybe looking for continuation and that push back down, like that big drop back down, that cross of that MACD, right? So I want you to look right here what happened today. Okay. We pushed up, right? There's the cross. We pushed up and look where it started to curl. And then there's the cross acceleration. And then we accelerated to the downside. We gave the whole opening drive move back. Okay. There's your cross, right? There's your overextended RSI. And there is the cross back down, right? Again, I'm on a 15-minute time frame. Remember? So if I'm day trading or I want to watch what's happening on the day, I might just keep it again on the 5 and the 15-minute, and then just kind of double check maybe on the hourly just to see how that's going. I'm like, there's still a lot of strength there. I may want to be careful. There may be continuation, okay, to the upside. I don't want to step in front of that, but I also don't want to chase call options, ideally into resistance, into overbought levels, right? So it will all start coming together, and I'll take a pause right here that if this is confusing or if this is kind of exciting for you, like, oh man, I'm starting to get it. I'm starting to gain tools, right? Again, that link is down below if you want to take a step further with either mentorship and you like my coaching style and you want one-on-one, or you want to be in a community, Leverage University, and also be able to go ahead and live trade with us, see these things in action, see the candles moving, see me talking about it. If you want that, the link is down below. You can use the code Black Friday. All right, let's jump back to it. All right. So everybody getting that MACD plus the RSI, two other indicators to indicate changes of direction and momentum. Because a lot of questions for new traders and beginners, and even traders like myself who've been trading since 2018, started getting really active in 2019, and then everyone swarmed in 2020 when, the C word happened, right? So roughly about 6 years or so, okay? Roughly about 6 years. So I've seen multiple markets, and it's really understanding time on the charts and seeing candles move, right? And you'll see these things happen over time where you get more comfortable. So I do not want you to get overwhelmed and say, man, I've got the VWAP and the 9 EMA. And I like to keep my charts clean. I actually don't like to have a bunch of stuff on my charts. I kind of like to turn them on periodically. So if you see me live trading, you'll see my chart like this. I'll maybe have these up, and then I'll just have my VWAP, right? Let me go to the chart here. This is how my charts look. Okay. Very shrunken RSI and MACD, a VWAP and a 9 EMA, and then my levels. Very simple. I don't have stuff going all over the place. All right. So as you know how to use these tools, you can shrink them, turn them, off or hide them. You can see there I can hide, right? So where's a cleaner chart? And we just use these tools to gain confirmation. Like I said, you do not need all these things. I just want you to know what they are, because you'll have a lot of people saying, use this, use that, use this, use that, right? And I want you to know what they are. Okay, cool. So like I promised, there's the RSI and MACD. All right. Use them in tandem together to understand when changes of direction, right? When it's coming down, it's oversold, and when there's going to be a reversal, and also when there's overbought levels, right? And you're wondering, why in the world would someone think about shorting this stock when it's strong? It's because it's overbought and their risk to reward is better coming down. All right. And you get caught holding the bag, right? So you look up and you like today, you looked up, you entered calls, you looked away, you did whatever. And the next thing you know is like, what in the world happened? It was overbought and it was right into a lower high resistance, right? 667. That's knowing your levels. That's knowing the how to use the tools. All right. So let's see here. Let's go into our long-term investing. All right. So one that is looking pretty good right now is Meta. Okay. And you can see this reversal on Meta very quickly off of that low at 581, and with NVIDIA earnings and everything, there we go. All right. So I want you to look at Meta on a weekly chart. Okay. I like to look at long-term investing, or when you get those 5-6 month levels where you get a return. It's like, man, I can hold this for the next 5 months, 6 months, years, whatever. Where's a good entry on solid blue chip companies, right? And that's why I'm using Meta. Meta is on a, let's go here, downtrend from the all-time highs and back down. Meta was down 27.5%. Okay. That is in bear market territory pullback. All right. That is in buying opportunity territory. Okay. For a solid blue chip company. Now, could it keep dipping? Yeah. But we can never time the bottom. We can typically time temporary recoveries, but where's the ultimate bottom? Meta could pull all the way back down to 500 if it wanted to eventually over time. Okay. But this was a solid level. I want you to look at the weekly RSI. Okay. And I want to look at the weekly MACD. Okay. Do you see that the weekly RSI is still going down? right? It can be irrational, like we talked about before. It can keep going down and just stay down here. There's a lot of selling pressure. Look at the MACD. It's still crossed to the downside, right? Look at this MACD over here on a weekly. You see how it crossed back to the upside and reversed, right? That is a reversal signal when you start seeing that orange line in this case, right? Right? The MACD line on Robinhood. You can see that it is, let me pull them up in tandem just in case y'all are looking on your Robinhood or another platform. And let me pull up Meta on a weekly. And there you go. It's the light blue line. Okay. So what I typically look for is I like to see weekly MACD or sometimes daily MACD crosses in a specific direction. Okay. A lot of times, obviously, we're looking for long-term investing, or you're looking for a nice swing trade or a leap option trade, right? Long dated call options. You want to look on weekly and also daily timeframes. All right. So if I'm looking for a true, like, when in the world is Meta going to actually reverse and start picking up steam like this did? More likely when that weekly starts curling, right? When that weekly starts curling. Now the daily, if I go to daily, it's most likely curling already, as you can see, but it's still underneath. Okay. So when that daily curls and crosses, look what happened here. See when it crossed, right? It got a little pop, but it continued down. So that weekly is still weak, WEAK. Okay, that weekly is still weak because that MACD is still underneath that signal line. All right. So that tells me that I could have a little recovery. I don't want to time the bottom. So buy your shares, buy your dip, buy your, be careful on the leap option calls and whatnot. Maybe grab some if you'd like. It could go from here. But does this signal a true reversal from a technical standpoint using the MACD? Not necessarily just yet, because it's not curling and crossing just yet like this one did. So it's getting further away, and this one ripped, right? Do you see that it got so far away and then it starts curling? I like that when it starts curling towards that line, right? And that was right there on that reversal at 5:30 last time. And then when it crossed, that's when it took off, right? So this helps long-term investors as well to understand on solid blue chip companies. Because let's go to just say, I don't know, Duolingo, okay, which has also just been absolutely, actually, let's go to CoreWeave, okay. All right. So CoreWeave is a top, and it actually popped due to NVIDIA right there. There's the pop. So CoreWeave has been on everybody's radar as far as the data centers and dealing with AI, and also NVIDIA is one of NVIDIA's biggest investments. Okay. So do you see on the weekly, it's still curling to the downside, but on the daily, this daily's starting to curl a little bit, right? The daily's starting to curl. So it doesn't matter necessarily that the weekly's not curling. If the daily starts curling, I could have a multi-day, multi-week kind of pop recovery, right? But the big kind of takeoff time is typically when you have that weekly curl and it's back to the upside. All right. So daily in the 4 hours, probably curling. It's already crossed. Yeah. There's where the cross happened. So there's where the accumulation, and today was the pop. So when I see a 4 hour, a daily start crossing one of them, right, and curling up, I know a reversal is coming pretty soon in the shorter time frames. All right. So CoreWeave, awesome buy, accumulation right at this 70 range. Okay. And a great opportunity for a recovery, most likely back to 90 as that 4 hour continues to curl, go up to 90, 92. And the daily, maybe it starts curling as well. And then we start getting maybe that weekly to start turning up. All right. So let me know. I think I cover everything. Let me know if this satisfied you. Let me know if these two indicators, how you use them, and also if they help you. If you've never heard of them before and this is the first time, I appreciate you taking out of your time to listen to this video. Make sure to join Leverage University in your due time if you decide to take further action in joining us inside of the community for live trading, education, so on and so forth. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. Thank y'all so much. Until next time, peace, love, and blessings.